love March because we are celebrating women and everything they do and the way they contribute. And we have an amazing group of women that I am happy to be a part of. And we have a gentleman in the group too who is an advocate. And if you are joining us for the very first time, TownSquare Talk came around because Pearl and I were brainstorming on how we could have a positive effect on what was going on with COVID-19. A lot of our family members and clients were trying to learn how to pivot and figure out what are we going to do with the new normal. And so we formed this show because of that, and we have been bringing subject matter experts and topics that are pertinent to what we find now is our new normal.
Yeah, and it's our special show today, right?
Yes.
Celebrating Women's History Month. And Pat, I know that we have some history. You're going to tell us how the Women's History Month started.
So Women's History Month is legally declared and has been around since 1987. And it was initially created to celebrate the contributions of women to history, culture, and society. And really that has expanded to pretty much any industry and any genre. And so we've been celebrating it since 1987 for an entire month, for March. And so we want to be a part of that and elevating women. I'm Pat Alva-Kraker. I'm a business coach, a speaker, an author, and a trainer. And it is my pleasure to be here and host this show with one of my great friends, Pearl Peng.
Yes, my name is Pearl Peng. I am a coach and advisor for CEOs and their teams. And I have a company called Benchmark Maven, which is a coaching advisory company based in Tampa Bay area in Florida. So, well, Pat, shall we introduce our panelists today?
Yes. So we want to start with Florence Salazar-Bruner. So Florence lives in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Florence is, and I call her Flo, is an award-winning businesswoman serving the greater Dallas-Fort Worth area for over 25 years in the auto industry. Her business, Firehouse Auto Sales, is celebrating its 9th birthday this year. Her business is known for a concierge auto service where she finds and masterfully hand selects the car that you desire that meets your personalized needs and your budget needs. Florence has been in this business for a long time, and she is in the luxury, providing you a luxury experience. And she is amazing, and her team is amazing. Florence gives a lot to the community. She has a passion for helping firefighters, families, children, women, economic growth. And she and I are part of some organization that really helps women. So thank you, Florence, for being here.
Yes, welcome, Florence. And allow me to introduce Ellen Hill. Ellen is a financial professional and educator. Orphaned at 16 in Singapore, Ellen quickly realized that she must learn how to make her money work for her. She started to learn investing right after high school, working in a stock brokerage. She later immigrated to the United States and has worked in the Big Four CPA firms for 15 years. In 1997, she got securities licensed and has started to introduce and educate individuals and their families, many now in their second generations. How about that, huh? To eradicate financial illiteracy, the #1 economic crisis in the world, impacting more than 5 billion across the planet. As a how money works educator and licensed professional, Ellen's goal is to help break the cycle of endless debt, reckless spending, financial cluelessness, and help people start taking control of their financials now and in the future by making informed decisions about finances, building and executing a solid tax-advantaged financial plan. Welcome, Ellen.
Welcome, Ellen. I'd like to now introduce Daeu Angert. She lives in Florida. In fact, she's a neighbor of Pearl's. And Daeu is a multi-talent visual artist. She's a writer, director, executive producer, and president of Daeu Art Gallery. It's an online gallery that you absolutely must go see. She also has a
Thank you.
production company and a channel called Daeu Art, a streaming TV network that is coming to a station near you on Roku, Fire TV, and Prime Video. As a polymath in art, technology, and storytelling, Daeu brings a unique and difficult to find combination of skills, knowledge, and experience that seemingly blends strategy, design, and cinematic expression. She's also the host of an I Paint Ideas podcast on all the popular platforms such as Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and Google. And she stars in the Artist Studio, and it's coming soon to a Daeu Art channel near you. Before she got into this artistic industry, if you will, love of art, she, like Pearl and I, she was in technology. And so she was information technology and a project manager consultant for some of the biggest Fortune 500 companies, including Comcast, Cigna, and AIG, just to name a few. She's a dear friend of ours. Welcome.
Thank you.
Daeu.
Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. The next up is Tanya Thomas. And there she is. Tanya Thomas is a virtual assistant services provider. She's a pioneer in her field. She's the founder of Team Delegate, a company providing top-notch virtual executive assistant support to busy and savvy business owners. For over 20 years, Team Delegate's highly trained executive VAs provide comprehensive admin support that helps time-starved CEOs to double their productivity so they can triple their earnings by growing their teams and leading multi-million-dollar revenue growth and expansion, while freeing up their time to focus on what matters in their business and life. Tonya has been featured in several national media, including Entrepreneur and Black Enterprise. She is a frequent speaker at business events and on podcasts. Tonya lives in the Dallas, Texas area with her husband and 2 sons. In her spare time, she enjoys walking, reading, and watching her favorite shows and movies. Welcome, Tonya, to the show.
Welcome, Tanya. I'd like to introduce Piyush Malik. Piyush is a startup executive entrepreneur, board advisor, and a business transformational practitioner in emerging technologies. Wow, 3 of us have IT backgrounds. That's amazing. As a senior VP in Spring ML, a Google partner startup, Piyush is in charge of customer success solutions, helping enterprise customers, clients accelerate their journey at AI first and cloud first digital transformation. He's very much into technology, obviously with AM, IoT, and data science. Formerly, he founded and led diversified large and high caliber global teams of thousands at IBM, which is Pearl's background and my background in a previous life, and to grow, really to help them grow and scale their Fortune 500 client companies spanning numerous industries and or continents. Piyush lives in the Silicon Valley. He's been there for 25 years, and he also contributes to the community and is very much a giver. He serves on numerous boards of professional and nonprofit organizations. Welcome, Piyush Malik.
Welcome, everyone. And let's start with a gratitude round. It's always, always good to have that gratitude in our heart and share with our audience. So I like to invite Flo to first share. What are you most grateful for?
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here with everyone. My gratitude, speaking as of today, it's been a rough 2 weeks, and I am, as far as the auto industry right now, but I'm going to tell you right now, I'm grateful to be in my business, and I'm grateful to be amongst everyone here, the panelists here, because it is with great gratitude that I accepted to be on this panel. I'm just so thankful.
Thank you, Flo. And next up, Ellen, would you please share your gratitude with us?
The first gratitude, I think, is just I am so grateful for my life, period.
Yes.
All the challenges, and it makes me get very emotional. But, you know, being alone at a very young age, I came out the other way very blessed. I cannot complain. And most of all, today, I'm grateful to be part of all of this. Just talking and reaching out to other women and to have met all of you, especially my great friend Pearl. Who would have thought when we met years ago that we would stay in contact, and today here we are. You know, they say many people come into our lives, some for a reason, a season, and some for a lifetime. So I hope each and every one of you moving forward will be in my lifetime.
Oh, so sweet. Thank you.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you, Ellen. And next up, Daeu.
Thank you so much for having me and for being here. It's really amazing. Thank you so much. And I want to echo what Flo and Ellen were talking about, exactly that. And just for breath, being grateful to breathe, especially with COVID last year and how many people just can't breathe, can't do stuff, are not able to. And just being able to sit in the sun, enjoy the sunshine on your face. You know, it's a huge gratitude just to do that, and to be able to create is amazing. Yeah.
Thank you, Daeu, for your share. And Tonya?
Yes, first of all, thank you for having me as well. Glad to be here. I am grateful for health and for my family, for the opportunity to do what I do.
Thank you, Tonya. And
Thanks
Piyush?
for having me on the show, Pearl. And first of all, thankful for the clean air that we all breathe in, water to drink, and to God for good health and enjoy all that life has to offer. Above all, Mother Earth for giving us the access to food. And as we step into spring, to Mother Nature as well, for all of us to experience the various seasons that are on this earth. So thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Piyush. Thank you, everyone. And Pat,
Yes.
what's your gratitude?
Right. So I'm grateful for everyone that is here, and I'm grateful that technology is working for us today. And so it's on our side. And I'm grateful that we are celebrating, Pearl and I are celebrating a year of having TownSquare Talk. And here's to another year, Pearl.
Yes, awesome. I'm just going to be echoing everyone. Awesome. Really, the whole energy here. And thank you for your presence, bringing, your expertise and your experiences to share with all our audience. We are all ears. We just love, love, love. Let's dive into the show. Pat.
All right. So you all have come from quite different backgrounds, and it is not an accident that you are here with what makes you absolutely unique in all the industries that you're in. You have all accomplished a lot in your field. Tell us, what attracted you to the field that you're in, and what is it that you love about your industry? And I want to go ahead and start with Ellen.
Thanks, Pat. That is a great question. Actually, I would say I didn't choose this industry by default because of my challenges in life. It chose me. Because as Pearl said, at age 16, when you lose both your parents, and the rug is pulled under you, you're like, okay, what do I do now? I had aunt, and I had a good aunt. I love her to death, a grandmother, but it's not the same. You're well aware that, I can't run to my aunt and say, oh, I'd like to buy this or I'd like to buy that. So I knew early on that I had to learn what money was all about. And I didn't have parents to teach me. Not that, there's some parents that can't teach that lesson. But so I said the best way to do it was to go and work for companies that deal with it, right? That's the best place you can be in. So I started working for them, and I started learning And I'm very blessed that by default also, an former schoolmate of mine who moved from Singapore to the United States had contacted me, and she bugged me for 3 years. Come and look at this. Come and look at our company. I think you'll be very good. Okay. I finally met up with her just to, excuse my French, shut her up, right? Stop bugging me just so I can say, I met with you, that's it, move on. So 25 years later, you know, I went and got my licenses and appropriately licensed, learned about product. And I said, geez, these are things that I, you know, did not know. And I'm sure there are a lot of people that do not know this, but nobody is teaching them, not schools, not anybody. So I decided this was where I wanted to plant my flag. It was very challenging in the beginning because you're in a new industry, a male-dominated industry as well. And it took time. It took some time. But today, we got a little future person. 25 years later, I'm blessed to still continue to be impacting lives, families. And the most important and exciting thing for me, like Pearl said, I'm now educating and helping their next generation. These were little kids, babies. Some weren't even on this planet. And today they're 18 and 20 and their parents are saying, here, educate my kids. So that's my biggest joy. I say, what a legacy to leave, huh?
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much. And I'd like to move over to Daeu.
I have actually a very similar story to Ellen. My work found me, and I fought it for the longest time because I majored in math with computer science and cinematography. And I did art just because it's something I did since I was 12 years old. It's not something that I thought to make money with or have a gallery. It was literally something I just did. And it was just like something I do. That's it, you know, until 35 years later, when my husband said, you know, looking at my painting on the wall, he said, why don't you make this one of your things?
Yeah, and you're
And
so
I'm
good.
like, and I'm like,
So good at
wait,
it.
what? You know, he's like, you're pretty good. I think you should do it. And I'm like, wait, who are you and what did you do with my real husband? Because it's usually as a polymath, they're like, why don't you pick one thing to be a thing instead of, you know, doing 50 things to be a thing. So it was like, okay, let's do this. And then we monetized in 3 weeks, which was really interesting. And that was it, you know. So it was like 25 years in IT, you know, all these other degrees and things like that. And now I make art that I didn't go to school for. So, yeah.
Oh, somebody has a background noise.
You have someone mute?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so this is really interesting. And what I love about it is really the creativity and the changing of energy from one thing to the other. You know, having an idea turning into a painting, taking a painting, turning it into a podcast, taking a podcast and turning it into a digital art. Like there's all these different ways that creativity finds its way to be expressed. And I love that about it, probably the most.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Daeu. And I want to invite audience too. If you'd like to share how you got into your fields, you know, feel free to type in the chat, okay? And let us know, share how you got into your fields. Next up.
Because we are curious about you too. And so now we'd like to move over to Tanya. So if you will, what attracted to your field?
What attracted me to my field at the time was the fact that it was remote. In my current circumstances at the time required my husband and myself to move. And I'd had an entrepreneur spirit for a few years, but due to the fact of moving, there wasn't anything that I could do from a business standpoint. So when I came across virtual assistants, then I saw that was perfect because that could move along with me. And what I like about the field, the fact is that helping people, I like the transformation, people coming to us and you being able to help and support them and make a difference in their business helping them feel better on the back end. So that's one of the things that I love about the business. When someone is overwhelmed and on the back end, then they're not. So just being able to help them and help them grow their companies and get peace of mind.
Mm,
Very nice.
thank you. That
Thank
was a
you.
great one.
I appreciate that. Piyush, how about you?
Well, I always wanted to be a scientist, and engineering was a step to become a scientist. But then I'm a management consultant for the largest amount of time in my life, and now I'm an entrepreneur. So I have a couple of stories to tell here, if I may. What attracted to what I do right now is the flexibility it offered and the entrepreneurship that I was able to practice during each of my jobs. So, just to elaborate a little bit more for the audience here, I've pivoted a few times in my career. I was trained to be a
Mhm.
telecom engineer and telecom and electronics engineer, actually by training, by degree, who always wanted to do R&D.
Mm.
My first job put me into product engineering, product management, and straight out of school, if you are given an opportunity to work with the best R&D team of a telecom company of the biggest industrial house of India, you won't say no. And I was able to help launch 6 new products within 2 years, and right out of engineering school. And then I pivoted
Mhm.
into the booming software industry right uh, right after those 2 years, and became an IT and systems manager, and because that was what was paying more. And then after my executive MBA, I pivoted again to become a management consultant, and then I started focusing more and more on data, business intelligence, analytics, and after globetrotting and client engagements and speaking engagements in 4 continents and more than 40 countries, I got to say, okay, I'm done with that. Let me retire, but let me retire into entrepreneurship. And then I started my startup journey, founded a startup, failed, and then started advising other companies, and then got sucked into one company where now I am, and into AI and artificial intelligence. Um,
Great.
and in between, having had my hand in deep technology with IBM, where I got elected to the IBM Academy of Technology, that gave me an exposure to great technologists. And that's what now I work with technologists of all kinds across the industries. Sometimes it's automotive, sometimes it's telecom, and sometimes it's real estate industry folks that I work with as my clients. So I'm very excited for what I do, but more excited that I'm able to give back to society through my nonprofit work.
Very nice. Thank you so much. And now I ask my HWNT sister, Flo, what got you into the industry and what do you love about your industry?
So I stumbled into my industry. I've always been a tomboy, very young, working on cars with my grandpa who raised me. So I stumbled into it. When I say stumbled into it, is because at 21, I had became under the age of 21. So I had 4 kids and mommy. And so I was in between, what do I do life-wise, career-wise, job-wise, and I have to have a career. But when I turned 23, I was going through jobs, and at 23, I found a company online that a couple of my girlfriends had started working there, and they offered me to go there, and they were like, oh, they're paying $14 an hour. And a year, it was like, wow, $14 is a lot of money. And it was for collections for an automotive company, which was Cars Yes at the time. So I worked, as Latinas, we're very loyal people. I started working my way up in the company it was drive. So all 3 of the same company is what it is. And I ended up working there for 17 years. And I moved up in the company. I was very driven. I'm very competitive, but I wanted to work in different fields that I worked in every part of the company that you could think of. I traveled United States car dealerships. I did underwriting. I did sales manager for 6 months. At that time, I didn't like it because they were working 12. I still work 12 hours a day, but not as a sales manager. And then I did every part of the job you could think about. I mean, we opened up stores everywhere, call centers, ran a call center, you name it, we did it. But then in 2012, and I was their shining star. So I thought they came to me and said that they were going to lay me off because Santander was going to take over their entire company and they didn't want any of their old regional managers. But they did give me, I was very thankful because I walked away with 17 years of pay, the severance package. And the next day I found out that I talked to my girlfriend that day. And then the next day I decided that I was going to open up my own car dealership. And that's very difficult being a woman in a definite male dominated field. When you're asking for help or just not help, but just inquiring, people look at men. I'm sorry, but men do look at you like, your husband's not running that dealership. Your husband doesn't run that dealership, or is he gonna, what is he gonna do for you? So I don't let that get me. So started the business. I had a best friend that had left Drive Time 5 years prior, and she started her in San Antonio. It was very successful. Always hands-on for me because she is busy. And but it gave me a guidance, and I had the best 17 years of training for free. Well, paid training because they did pay me at Drive Time for 17 years to start my business. And I took all that knowledge. And I always say the biggest thing is that one day, 6 months later, after getting laid off from Drive Time, I was walking into a brand new Berkshire Hathaway Metro Auto auction. And as I was walking in with the general manager of the facility. He was showing it to me. As I was walking in, the president of Drive Time, president and CEO, who is in Arizona, we met up in Dallas, and we were just like colliding. And he was like, "Oh my God, Flo, what are you doing here? Did you find a job here? Are you working here?" No, actually. And the general manager said, "No, actually, she's one of our newest clients here at the auction. She owns Firehouse Auto Sales." And that was just the best moment ever. So what he told
What
me
a good story.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you
what
for
he told
sharing
me
that.
was he said, the best thing, Flo, is that when we thought you weren't listening, you were definitely listeing, because you learned the tricks of our trade.
You didn't just listen, you take action. You took action.
Yeah. So that was an aha moment.
Thank you.
That is what I call a light bulb moment.
There you go. So thanks so much, everyone, for sharing. And we have a couple shares also in the audience. And of course, for the interest of time, we won't be able to share. So thank you, Isabella and Laura, for sharing how you got into your field. It's been really heartwarming and touching. So once again, thank you. On the next point is that with all that great stories that you have been all doing the work, the whole expertise in your field, and we have an audience full of business and professional women and entrepreneurs, and perhaps with them listening as well in the replay. And with you have learned so much lessons along the way. What has been one of your biggest lessons that our audience can learn from? So with that, I'd like to ask Daeu to start.
I think it's just being yourself. That is the biggest lesson. It's just, you have to be true to what you want to do and stop listening to everybody else to a degree. Success does leave clues, and you should definitely research things and know what's happening and keep your ear to the ground. But when it comes to what you want to do, you have to do what's your thing. You know, instead of trying to fit whatever it is that you think you want to do into somebody else's system, or do what some other person is doing, because you're not them, your thing is not their thing, and you have to adapt so that you can make really a unique expression of you in your business, in school, like whatever you're doing. So it's really finding your own box, right? And standing out in the crowded market, really. No matter where you are, it's still going to be crowded. So how do you differentiate yourself? And I think by being you is a great way to differentiate too. Yeah.
Love that. I love that. I'm
Love
gonna give
that.
you a
Everybody's unique, right? So
our sound
Yes.
effect.
I mean, that is your competitive advantage, because
Yeah.
nobody is like you. So if you can combine your skills and talents in a way that only you can, that's what's giving you advantage. You know, I hear a lot of people say, well, just pick this thing and then do how everybody else is doing it. And you're really like stripping your uniqueness away by doing that. So if you can find your lane that nobody else is in, I think that's the way to go.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Great.
Great. Thank you for sharing that, Daeu. Next up, Tanya.
The one biggest lesson that I would say I've learned is to let go and let God. You can't control everything that happens, and then in business, also in life as well, and things will come your way, but definitely I've learned that in business. One day may be going great, and then you're slammed with something the next that just came out of left field. And you can't let it, you can't focus and dwell on it, because then that just causes stress. Sometimes it's something that you can't control. And I always think things happen for a reason. So you have to think, maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing, who knows? But because it may be something that's a good thing down the road, but you just don't understand at that particular time that it is. It seems devastating. So just being able to let things roll off your back, and that's a big lesson that I've had to definitely learn because of that. You know, if things come in your way that you just can't control, but learning to just not dwell and focus on it and move forward. Don't let it derail you either, but just continue to push and move forward.
Wow. Definitely good advice. Thank you.
Love that. Thank you, Tanya. And so the next person I'd like to have share is Mr. Piyush. What's your biggest lessons learned?
I guess I'm muted here. So, one of the things I would say the biggest lesson is you should be ready to jump on any opportunity your gut says go, whether you are fully qualified or trained for or not. And I'll give you a few examples there.
Love
When I
that.
took on the big global role at PwC to lead a practice, or IBM to build a practice from scratch, which I did end up building from scratch to 10,000 people, I, of course, wanted to travel the world around and meet people, different cultures, and experience all of that. But I did not know the fully baked in go to market plan for each geography. I did not know all the technologies involved myself. And I also did not know the diverse languages that my constituents would have, right? But then I partnered with various agencies, both internal and external ISVs, independent software vendors, hardware, software, as well as folks that could help me. And I took one day at a time, put my 100% into it, and keeping the big picture in mind, I executed. And with that, opportunity brought me face to face with a full room full of Chinese and Taiwanese natives at world's largest semiconductor company, TSMC, on Monday of one week. On Friday of that week, I was with a room full of CEOs of Japanese industry at the IBM Executive Center in Tokyo. And the following Monday, I was in Jamaica talking to 100 CEOs of small and medium businesses sponsored by the Ministry of Commerce. Wouldn't have happened if I would have said, hey, am I qualified? Do I have all my ducks in a row? No, I just took a go for it, and taking some calculated risks, I just went on. And that's what I encourage all my women colleagues as well as proteges that I have, as well as my daughters. Just take risk and go for it.
I really appreciate you saying that, because so many times when we're stepping into a new endeavor, we feel like we have to know everything about that job before we step in. And so we deny ourselves opportunities to really get promoted or step into something bigger because we don't know all the moving parts. We don't know all, we're not highly trained in all of those. So I appreciate that you follow your gut and you're just going to jump in and you'll learn it on the way, right? You'll learn it on the
Absolutely.
way.
Can I add something to that?
Go
I
ahead.
just want to add that to really pay attention to the things that you like doing, even if you don't have any training in it.
Mm.
Because you have this, when you're doing your thing, you have this weird sense of courage and confidence for no good reason. You have no experience, you have no training, you're just doing it. So pay attention to that, because that's your thing. And then if you can get some training around it and build some skills, that's really the path, I think.
Yeah, awesome, Piyush. Thank you for sharing. The next up, Flo.
Hey, so my thing is, I always say this, um, think outside your box. And because, I mean, being 17 years loyal to this company, thinking I eat, lived, breathe that company, thinking I was gonna die there, and it was gonna be my smooth sailing ride home. And I didn't had known everybody in that box. So corporate people, everybody in the automotive industry, underwriting, in that corporation, I knew everybody. I didn't know anybody. I never stepped outside my own box. And I had to learn, once I became an entrepreneur, to step outside the box, to network, to get around everybody. It didn't have to be automotive people, because I needed somebody in IT. I needed somebody in customer service. I needed somebody downtown, and pairing titles. I needed somebody for every department. And I had to learn that from scratch. And as an entrepreneur, not knowing never that I would be an entrepreneur, because I'm the first one in our family to be an entrepreneur. And I would say you have to get outside your box. And your company or where you're at right now is not always your lifeline. I mean, you people, everybody together here, us as a team, we're different networks, but we could come together and learn from each other. There's always something about each other that's going to help each other out. And it's good to know people. And you never know what experience they have that might come to your industry that can help you out. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank
Everyone that you meet can be of value somewhere down the line. So nurture the people that you meet, because you never know how you can help them and how they can help you. So the network is your net worth. That's how I see that. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
That is my motto. That is my motto. My net worth is my network, big time. Because once you get to know me, like I don't get to know y'all, I have a very big network. Never knowing I would have such a big network. Thank you.
Thanks again for Florence. Ellen, would you share your one big lesson learned?
My one big thing I would say, but before I go on to that one big thing, I'd like to address what Tanya said. Yes, we cannot control what happens to us, but the one thing that we can control is how we react to all the things that happens to us. That gives us control, basically. For Flo, I'm sure growing up, you had a lot of guys coming after you because you could fix a car, right? That is so cool. And I hope I'm pronouncing your name, Daeu.
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 Yeah.
Sorry?
Daeu.
Oh, Daeu. That's very interesting. Very, very interesting, unusual name. I'd just like to lose a comment that you said, learn, as you're going. I like to say, learn as we grow.
Mhm.
Instead of learn as you go, you learn as you grow, because you're either dying or you're growing. So,
That's true.
basically, right? If you don't grow, if you don't learn something new, I don't care how old you are, you're going to be fossilized, and you just sit down in front of your front yard or your backyard, just waiting for the good Lord to pull your number. For me, not having had an easy journey in this industry in the early stages, I would say tenacity. That's the one thing I have been blessed with, is tenacity. I'm like this rabbit dog. If I find something, I bite and I don't let go. So I guess my other name or my previous life, you could say I was a pit bull. But, there's a time and place for it, right? You don't just bite on everything. But if you have something that your heart and with every fiber in your body, you want to do it and you're meant to do it, then do it. Silence your critics. Never give up on your dream. It might take you 10 years, 20 years. It's the journey. Life is not a destination. Life is a journey. And we never stop moving. So that's what the one thing I would say is be tenacious. Don't give up. Be a pit bull.
I love that.
Love that. Awesome.
Yes.
Wow, there's just so much we still have to share. But at this minute, we're going to take a 3-minute bio break. So in case you need to go do something and just a little stretch, and long day perhaps, go ahead and we're going to time for 3 minutes and we'll come right back after this sponsor message someday.
We'll get there. Thank you all. Empowerment. Our next question is, you have all been in your industries for a very long time, have been very successful, and you've seen your industries evolve. If you were to make one single change in your field as it relates to women, what would it be? And I'm going to start with Tanya.
This one was a tough question for me because my industry, I would say, is very female dominated. And so thinking of a change, it was tough. But one thing that I would say, if I could change, is how it's perceived. After some thought, I would say that. Sometimes it's not seen as a position of value, and that's even in the corporate world as well, that position. But it truly is, because there's still a level of expertise that you need in order to be able to provide excellent support. It's still skill sets that you have to learn and master and hone just like any other industry. But if that's one thing that I would say I would change, it would be that how it's perceived sometimes is not really being a position of value, and that like it's something that anybody could do. But I wholeheartedly disagree with that, because it still takes someone who's very detail oriented, and has a level of skill from a technical standpoint as well. So that's one thing that I would say I would change, is how it is perceived. But I know that doesn't really relate to women, but again, it's a heavily female dominated industry. So
I think it's related to everybody working in the field, right? So it's a really good point. Yeah,
I love it. And as an entrepreneurial coach, one of the things that I tell my clients is you need to get a VA. You need to outsource some of your work and stay in your zone of genius and
more
let
than one. Sometimes you need more than one, right? So
exactly, right? Because
so
different
much
specialties. So
more projects.
Absolutely. So Piyush, how about you?
Well, in my industry, if you take my industry, again, taking engineering as such, very few women enter engineering now. And back where I was growing, even fewer women were there. In my class, there were hardly 4 women. And this pains because it grows on. And when I went to my first job, in a batch of 25 management trainees, engineering management trainees who were hired, there was no woman at all. And as we progress, we see more and more less numbers. So I've consciously been advocating to hire more consciously, and ensure that the women have a seat at the table, and hire more women, irrespective of color or even orientation for that matter. That's what I've been advocating for all this while.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Flo, how about you?
Well, there's a lot in this right. I really need to reiterate that it is a male dominated field, but I've been in it long enough to know that it really is. I am advocating for women to sit at the table of boards that are predominantly male. Right now, that's a big deal. I'm looking at like the National Independent Auto Dealers Association. We're not represented. As minority women, we're definitely not represented. There's been one or two, but I think after getting recognized for Businesswoman of the Year by the National Independent Auto Dealers Association in 2019, obviously some things happened in 2019, so I wasn't able to pursue the board situation. But I think this year, like it needs to be the mentoring. We don't have any mentors. We don't have women to look up in the industry. It is definitely a male dominated field. And I want to be one of those mentors for somebody, because when I looked around for a mentor to ask, it was males that I was looking for. There was no women in the industry and when I say this, there was no women that independently own their own dealership. My husband and I are in totally two different fields. He can't tell you that if you see a Mercedes, he thinks it's a Kia and two different vehicles. And so when I was looking for a mentor, I couldn't find one, but I did know some people that were male that would help me out somewhat, So I'm thinking, it's a big deal for a woman to be a mentor. So I think I need to be that mentor to start off.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Mentors are so important to everybody's career, that's for sure. And Ellen, how about you?
Now I know why I didn't go into technology field. I can't even remember to unmute my microphone. For me, it's to get more women involved in our industry, because women, it's no longer where give me your money, let me invest it for you. It's different now. People have to understand how their products that they have, how does their money work to better manage it. For some specialty, you'll go to someone, but I wish there were more women that would come on board, because women don't feel comfortable with a female advisor. They feel more comfortable with a female, not a male, sorry, the other way around. And we see a lot of females after a divorce, after the death of their husbands, they switch because Piyush, not to insult you as a male, but we think differently. Our brains are not only wired differently, but society has conditioned us to think differently as well. And it's through no fault of ours, because when we're young, when you're inundated with do it this way, do it, you take on those characteristics unbeknownst to you, whether you want to or not. And it takes you to be consciously aware to say, no, that's not right. This is not the right way. But until then, you don't know what you don't know. And women, and I'd love to see in our industry that women get paid the same as men. I'm sorry, we don't. We get tipped all the time. A woman typically in every industry earns 82 cents to a man's dollar. So what I would say and we have to work extra 47 days just to make up for that gap, And what I would say, I'd like to see women not be afraid to go and talk about money, to learn about money, to have conversations. You know, don't think it's a man thing. It's an everybody thing. So that's what I'd like to see, that there are more women that come in, you know, and earn just as much as a man.
Yes. Thank you.
Because you get paid not by the color of your skin or your sex, but more on what value you bring to the table. And it should all be based on value, nothing more, nothing less. My
Yes.
2 cents worth.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And lastly, Daeu?
I have 2 words that I've been thinking about: platform ownership. So instead of looking for a seat at the table, have the table and have other people fight for the seat at your table. Especially in media, especially in, you know, coaching and things like that, where you can create your own platform. You know, the distribution has been democratized with the internet, so it's free, so you can do it. Marketing is not, so you still have to bring eyeballs to whatever platform you build, but why not build your own platform? Why build somebody else's platform with your own marketing? It just makes no sense to me. So that's what I would like to see more women do, own their own platforms.
I love that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Wow, great input. I hope you all are taking notes and getting inspired by these amazing women and men, ladies and gentlemen that are on with us. And so, Pearl, what's next?
So clearly, we're all advocating empowering women here. Tell us, panelists, more about how you currently do that at work, in your community, and with your families. And I'd like to start with Piyush.
Oh, great point. And just continuing from where I left off during the previous question, as you heard me say how I found the disparity even when I started off with my education to my first job to even the board positions that I serve on, I see the disparity still there 25 years later. And so one thing that I'm consciously doing is I say no to man-elves. Anytime I'm invited to speak and there are only men, I would say, get a woman instead of me. If you can't add another seat, then of course I'll step out and I'll be happy to recommend somebody else. Second thing that I'm trying to do is in my company, the startup that I joined after my own startup failed, and I saw, predominantly men folk there. It was a very small company, of 25 folks, and still, there were only about four, not even four, three women, and one of them got hired with me at the same time. And since then, I've been advocating, and now today the situation is that we are 250, and we have a good 25% representation of women there. Taking to my nonprofit work, the American Society of Engineers that I lead, when I took over the Silicon Valley chapter, 0 women on the board, and since then, now we have about 40% women on one chapter's board, 35% in another chapter. So conscious efforts over the last 6 to 7 years have led to the situation that whenever I see any opportunity where I see an imbalance, I would definitely advocate for a woman and also a millennial to be included, because as much as we oldies have opinions, it's the opinions of Gen Z's, opinions of the millennials that count. So I translate that into my family as well. And trust me, I'm in the minority in my home. My girls and my wife, they have the ruling authority in terms of opinions, and Gen Z, as I said, very powerful opinion. So all power to women here.
Awesome. So thank you so much for sharing that. That's some work that you've been doing. I really appreciate you help empowering women. So I am going to give you some nice shooting. Thank you. Good job. So next up, I'd like to invite Flo to please share with us how you advocate empowering women, support women.
So I took a pledge this month for and I do it, but I do it I don't do it like as intentional as it needs to be, because I'm always pushing for it. But this month I really wanted to make a conscious effort, because what we do is if you're really empowering women, you're just doing it in your because the boards we sit on, the networks we're a part of, and so I have been a mentor for Girls Eat for the last 5 years. And we pick they pair us up with a young student that's graduating, or a student that's already in college. And we mentor, we stay with them through the years. And I usually stay with them, even though it's only a year, I stay with them and in contact with them and follow their careers. But right now what I'm doing is I'm bringing, I want it to be brought to the table. Somebody brought me to the table, and it was a male that, Piyush is saying right now, a male brought me to the table, and it was a Larry Amphin, who is a very, very man in Fort Worth. But when I started here in Fort Worth, I knew nobody. And I joined the chamber as an ambassador. And I didn't know if I was working my way up to, the board, and I'm on the board now. But he made it very present to everybody that when he was at an event I probably couldn't afford, he was giving me his ticket to sit on his table, to be a part of that, to make sure I was networking with the right people, put me in the right position at all times, was always constantly inviting. But I want to do that same thing and give back to my Gen Zs, because they're the ones who are going to, those are the people that I'm listening to as well. Everybody has a medium. I'm in my 40s. My kids are in their 30s. My kids are in their 20s. My kids are in their teens. So I have 6 kids, everybody. So it's a lot, right? I want to be that for a younger person, or anybody that, it doesn't even matter if you're just starting your career in your 40s or 50s or 60s. And I want to be that person to help be at the table as well. So I've committed to taking people to chamber events, paying for them to sit at the table, without them having to put out of their pockets, and setting them up for training success, for online Zoom events and things like that, until the year's over with. But that's my commitment.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. That's a great share. Of course, gotta have that going. And next up, I really would like to invite Ellen to share with us how you do currently empowering women.
Well, I wish time would allow me to do more. But however, in my capacity at work, the blessing is that the company I'm affiliated with is very pro-women. In the last, I think, 5 or 6 years, don't quote me because my memory is not as good now at 66, and it was at 36 and 46. But we're the #1 broker-dealer. With all the broker dealers, including all the well-known companies. So we're very proud of that. And we have a lot of women now coming on board specifically with us in our company. So that's a good thing. We're all paid the same, because you're not paid whether you're male or female. You're paid according to a standard. And, the more you bring in, the more you get paid. The harder you work, the better you get, paid. So that's what I like about that. What I do for my community, like I said, I used to volunteer in high schools and stuff. And lately I've not, and with COVID, there's no schools to go. I used to be very involved with Junior Achievement, and I really loved their program. And I would always take the girls to the side and talk to them. So what I've done is, we can't go out very much. We can't, go close to anybody. But my favorite thing is when I see little girls, and little boys as well, bless their heart. I would go to them and I would, because you can only elbow them, right? You can't touch them. And I ask the parents, is it okay? And they say, yeah. And I say, you wore your mask and you covered your nose and your mouth. Good on you. And then I elbow bump them. But you'll be surprised. Again, Piyush, I'm going to use a one-liner that I learned from my grandmother. All these little things, you'll be surprised at how it goes a long way, because you never know, that kid may be in an environment that is not nurturing, but just getting a high elbow fight, with someone, hey, they feel good, right? You feel good when somebody, oh, I like your hair. I'm like, oh, thank you, and then it lasts for hours. So that's what I try to do, is to give them that high five and say, good job, way to go. Keep your mask on, because that's the only thing we have right now, right? And you can't see their face. And I always tell them, I bet you're a beautiful girl behind that mask, because I can see it in your eyes. You'll be surprised how they smile at you, and the parents smile at you too, and they're like, oh, they feel happy too. So little bit, because my grandma always said, tiny drops of water, a mighty ocean it will make.
Yeah, I love that.
So I'm like, I've used that for many years, ever since she told that to me. She was a pretty wise lady. So, that's what I would say. I teach. And for my family, I have 2 daughters and a son. And my boy, I taught him at a very young age, you're going to wash your own clothes at 11. No woman is going to be your maid or clean up. You clean your room, you wash. So the first time he did a load, all his underwear was blue because he washed it with his jeans. But hey, gotta learn. You live and learn, right? And so I've always told my daughter to be strong-minded, because you're going to find opposition. You're going to find people rain on your parade. You got to believe in yourself enough to push through. And I said, until you do that, until you believe and love and respect yourself, you do not have the right to ask it of someone else. So both my daughters are very strong-willed, and I'm, not to the point where, they don't let them in. Oh, if you talk to my husband, he'll say, you don't let me in a word edgewise. Okay, sorry, I'm very opinionated. But most importantly, I think for myself, and I tell my daughters, is no matter what you learn in life, the biggest lesson you can teach anyone is walking your talk by your example. Lead by your example.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because until then, you can talk up a good storm, you can use all the flowery words, you can do a good video, but the minute you are caught doing something that is not congruent with your video, you're done. Yep. You're done. And so that is my strongest message to give.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, lead by example, teach them young, of course, right? And always, interestingly, in everyday opportunity, anytime, right? Male or female.
And never let any child feel because they made a mistake that they were stupid or that they did something wrong. It is part of life. You have to have consequences, otherwise they'll never learn. But we should never make them feel bad. And I think Pearl, Piyush, and I, being of Asian descent, we used to be beaten up so bad, didn't we? That's why many of us have and I think every society, that's why fear of failure is the number one cause of anybody not moving in the direction of their dreams.
Good job, Ellen. Thank you so much for that share. And Daeu, I'd like to hear what you have in mind for this one.
For empowering women, I I think about the word empowerment and it feels too nebulous to me sometimes. Empowering to what? To do what? To think what? To like, what is it? So I'm trying to focus on more practical, specific things. And the painting that you see behind me on that side wall is called the multipotentialite. And it explores the idea of multipotentiality, specifically because that's, you know, my thing is a polymath. And I've been told many times, as I mentioned earlier, pick one thing to stick with it. And it never worked for years and years and years. And there are a lot of people like me, whether they're called Renaissance people or, you know, polymaths or multipotentialites, multipassionates, whatever, they're told the same thing and it really breaks them. And so that painting was exploring that idea of, you know, this really bad advice that we get. And out of that came a tool that I put together for multi-passionate entrepreneurs to find their niche without, you know, breaking themselves into pieces, which does not work. And so I'm trying to find ways to be specific. And in this case, multi-passionate women, or actually men too, to really embrace who they are and what they do and what skills they bring and what passions they bring together so that they can be who they are and kind of walk my walk that I spoke about earlier, be yourself. You can't be yourself if you cut yourself in pieces and just try to fit in a box, just one piece, right? So yeah.
That's beautiful because really the way that you're advocating women is that be yourself and you don't have to choose one thing. It's okay to have passions in so many different areas and then
Yeah.
helping them give them permission to embrace all of that.
Yes, and really the issue that I have when people tell us, you know, select one thing, you can't be everything to everybody. Pick a horse and ride it. I've been told, do you have an off switch? What wasn't meant as a compliment, tell you that. But yeah, it's really about how do you connect the dots? How do you connect these different things that you have going on into one way that you can market? And I think that's the conversation. It's like, how do you focus your marketing? Not how to select one of your passions, one of your talents. It's really how to focus your marketing. But the gap between one and the other is huge. It's a chasm.
Yep.
And a lot of people just get lost in there and we're uniquely incapable of saving ourselves from that. So I'm trying to do things like that. And in this case, I wrote a 5-step process, which is really a tool. It's not a system. It's just a tool to help people figure out how to connect different passions that they have into one expression of themselves, just to walk my walk and talk my talk.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah.
I love it. So yes, I cannot agree with you more. Personally, I am into a lot of things as well. So yes, you do need to focus while you're on that thing, but it's not just that one thing, right? So thank you for pointing that out. That's really, really gem. So next up, I would love to have Tanya to share with us what you
Yes.
currently do and recommend.
Empowering women at work and the ladies on my team, coaching them and helping them to grow in their roles. And then also from an industry standpoint, being a mentor to others in the field, helping them to have an easier path and not have to deal with some of the things that I dealt with. So pouring into them and providing them with guidance as well. And then piggybacking off of Ellen, because I was thinking the same thing. I'm the mom of boys. So that's big for me and huge in teaching them how to treat women. And so as they grow up and date or get married, that they know how to treat their wives. And that's huge for me as well. And definitely teaching them to be independent also and not be tied to into specific roles as it relates to men and women in the household. So those are ways that I try to empower women in work and at home.
So that's such a beautiful and important thing, especially with family members, right? With your own children, men or women. It's really about how best to treat each other and how you not only do teach them, you also act that way as well. So yeah, really resonating with that. Thank you. Thank you, Tanya. And
Well, audience, I hope you all, our listeners, I hope you all are taking notes. We've gotten so many nuggets from all these wise women and gentlemen. I'm so appreciative. Now for the last and juicy question is, first of all, thank you for sharing your stories. And the question is, if there was one piece of advice that you could share with the women that are watching or listening right now regarding achieving success in life, what would that be? And I'm going to start with Flo. One piece of advice.
Everything you do with integrity. Because when people aren't watching, you need to be doing the right thing at all times. It's not when people are watching you. Everything,
Yes.
I truly believe you need to be that person, because your integrity is going to make your business or break your business and your life and who you are. Because people don't buy cars in my auto industry, cars from me because I own a car dealer. They buy from me personally because they can trust in the integrity of the business and how I am personally and business wise. So I do everything with integrity.
Yeah, that's one of my values as well. And with that, Ellen, we're going to turn to you. One piece of advice.
One piece of advice. Well, that's kind of hard, Pat, because I have so many pieces that I pull
Your
from
favorite
all
one.
over. Well, I think the most powerful piece is, if you see on the back there, I have the thing that says she believed she could, so she did. One of the most important thing that I've said in the beginning, you are more powerful than you will ever know. We were created to be magnificent beings, but we've only used the little tip on our pinky. We've not really lived our full potential. And, I always tell people, believe you are unstoppable. I got to tell myself that, because we get conditioned and we're like, I can't do this. I'm too old. I'm that, whatever. I'm like, you're unstoppable. Even the word impossible is spelled I am possible. That's my 2 cents worth.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Wow. Getting inspired. I'm getting all the goosebumps with everything you all are sharing. And Daeu, what is your one lesson? One advice, one piece of advice.
One advice actually does come from the lesson, be yourself lesson, and find your own process. My mom asked me, why didn't you go to art school? I studied computer science and machine language, So why didn't you go to art school? Because I started a gallery 35 years after I started painting. And I thought about that. And I said, nobody can make you be an artist. They can teach you how to be a painter. They can teach you the skills and techniques and different things. But at the end of the day, you're putting paint on a canvas. So whatever that looks like for you, you have to find your own process. Nobody can give you that art in whatever you do. It doesn't have to be fine art. In business, coaching, IT, your magic is your magic, and you have to find your process because nobody can teach you that. Right.
Wow, thank you so much. That is so inspiring. And next, thank you. Yeah, exactly. Tanya, one piece of advice.
One piece of advice I'd share is don't be afraid to fail. And then when you do, learn from it. Always think, what is it? What's the one lesson I can take away from this? Because it's only going to help you moving forward. You may obviously feel bad at that particular time, but take that lesson from it because it's just making you stronger and helping you grow.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And Piyush?
Well, before I get to the piece of advice, I would say to all the women in my life, past and present, starting from my departed mother to the mother of my two daughters, that is my wife of 27 years, first and foremost, a big thank you. And rather than an advice, I would say a suggestion to women all around listening is to speak up and never let your dreams be tamed.
Mm,
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 great.
yeah. Wow. Thank you. So many pieces of advice. Believe in yourself. Think big.
Hmm.
Don't be afraid to fail. Don't let your dreams die, right? Don't let them tame and just really integrity. Wow. So much in a short amount of time. So with that, I am inviting everyone that all our speakers and panelists to enter your information, your contact information on the chat. I'm sure
Okay.
there's going to be a lot of questions and people who want to get a hold of you. And I invite you to enter your information on the chat. And those that are listening and watching this show, make sure that you copy the chat. Make sure you copy the chat. You would find that at the very bottom, there's a word file, and then there's three dots. If you click on that dot, there is an option to save the chat. So much has been shared in this show, and this is your way of being able to share and remember all the nuggets and the contact information of everyone, of all our panelists and everyone that shared so much of themselves and of their hearts. So thank you so much.
And yeah, and if you're listening, the recording, the contact info will also be posted along with the YouTube video post
Mhm.
of this recording. So you can find the contact info over there as well. Wow, this is so rich and heartwarming. All this discussion and sharing, and especially very personal experiences that no one probably would get to hear, right? Unless they listen in. So thank you once again. And we still have quite some time here. So, audience in the Zoom, if you have any questions, feel free to just um, enter the questions here. Let me just also check real quick to see if there's anything.
Pearl, if
Mm-hmm.
I may, just 2 seconds for any of you plus the audience. I put my information. I would love to gift you the How Money Works book. Okay, just you have my information. Reach out to me. Give me an address. Unfortunately, it's not in PDF form or in ebook form. I would love to drop one in the mail to you. That is my gift to you.
And, since we do have time, I'm going to go around quickly and I'm going to ask the panelists, what was one aha for you that you got from the rest of our speakers? And I will start with Flo. What was one aha that you got from listening to everyone?
Right. I'm so in a hole right now that I'm just like, wow, I've just met some new. So everyone's in my new network, guys. I'm gonna friend request you and I'm gonna send you emails because I would love to get to know the money. I mean, I learned so much. I mean, editing, directing, gallery over here, though. I mean, Tanya, virtual assistants. We were just talking about that with some girlfriends here in Fort Worth. And Ellen, money management, and you're right. I'm going to tell you this, what I did get from that is that you're right. Because sometimes women won't buy from me personally. They want to see a male and buy a car from. I know how to listen to buy a car with an engine and a motor and a transmission going out. I know how to buy cars, and I buy my own cars. And I get what you're talking about. So I definitely feel, but I give the opportunity. Virtual assistants, the same thing too. I mean, learning from your business and knowing that it is a woman, but it's such a useful tool, especially during COVID. I bet you were just like swamped.
Yeah.
The business and the industry. But my biggest listening, hello, you're putting people on the boards. there's not a lot of men like you doing that. And
Yes,
thank
I
you for
know.
doing, I mean, it's such a beautiful thing to see, because like I said, there was somebody that, and the guy that was putting me on, taking me and making sure that I was on everywhere, him, he actually is one of the founders of Course, his whole family. And he is a male, white male, and him and his father helped start the Fort Worth Hispanic Chamber of Commerce years ago.
Yeah.
So you never know when you get into people, right? Never know.
Never know. Thank you. Appreciate that. And Ellen, what was one aha for you
Well,
from that
you
you learned
put
from all
me
of
in a
from the
spot,
panelists?
Pat, because there's so many good things and my head is swirling with stuff. And it's not so much an aha, I guess. It's more, what was so profound for me is that we were all kind of on the same wavelength. And it was, there are no coincidences in life, right? They say. I mean, before we started, I was talking to a young lady, and we were just talking about life is a journey, and it's an individual journey. And Daeu had talked, I think it was Daeu who talked about that. And, then also when Tanya talked about you can't control life, and we were talking about that. And we were talking about, paying it forward. I think Flo said she wants to pay it back now, but, instead of paying it back, pay it forward as well. So it's so funny that the conversation I had with her kind of aligned with all what you guys were saying. So it truly is that, you come together, and it I don't know what happens, but it just happens. So that was what was good, is that we are all in alignment.
Thank you. Daeu, how about you?
Of course. Yeah, I agree with what everybody said. It was interesting to see how all the advice kind of build on each other, whether that's, integrity, risk taking, don't let the small things bother you, just go with it, or being yourself. It all comes together. You got to believe in yourself. You got to go for what you want. You don't have to wait for anybody. You can just take it. But it's great that there are people out there like Piyush who is championing women,
That is amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
And Tanya, what is your aha, your takeaway?
I'm like everybody else. It's hard to have just one specific thing because there were so many good things said. But Daeu, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I hate to not. When she mentioned about building your own platform, that stood out too, and having the ability and the power to be able to do that. So yeah, but everything that everybody shared has just been great and fantastic, and it has been a synergy with all of us being on the same page with everything. So it's been fantastic.
Great, thank you. Piyush?
The first
What
time I
was your
feel like
aha?
I'm in the minority here, obviously. But I do applaud you all and for inviting me. And the aha moment, all things all of you said is great. One aha moment is how much I underestimated the power of network, and how much after coming to this event, I feel so much spiritually connected to each of you. And for that, it's the inner self, inner soul saluting all of you. And thank you very much.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all. So our next show, our show is once a month. Our next show is For the Love of Mother Earth. And we're talking about how your actions matter as they take care of Mother Earth and raise her level of consciousness. So we want you to tune in, bring a friend, a family member, your favorite drink, and let's talk about how we honor Mother Earth and what we do in her honor. So
And it
please,
will be held on
it'll be held on
April 21st at the
April
same
21st.
time, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central,
There you
5
go.
p.m. Mountain, and 4 p.m. Pacific time.
There we go.
Wow. All right. So, with the final quote for today, don't be intimidated by what you don't know. That can be your greatest strength and ensure that you do things differently from everyone else. By Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx, world's youngest female billionaire.
Thank you for joining us, and panelists, make sure you stay on with us after we end the Zoom. So